So what is agentic AI and why are agentic AI workflows so powerful? Let's take a look. The way that many of us use large language models or LMs today is by prompting it to say, write an essay for us on a certain topic X. And I think of that as akin to going to a human, or in this case, going to an AI and asking it to please type out an essay for me by writing from the first word to the last word all in one go and without ever using backspace. And it turns out that we as people, we don't do our best writing like that by being forced to write in this completely linear order, and nor do AI models. But despite the difficulty of being constrained to write in this way, our LMs do surprisingly well. In contrast, with an agentic workflow, this is what the process might look like. You may ask it to first write an essay outline on a certain topic, then ask if it needs to do any web research, and after doing some web research and maybe downloading some web pages, then to write the first draft, and then to read the first draft and see what parts need revision or more research, and then revise the draft, and so on. And this type of workflow is more akin to doing some thinking and some research, and then doing some revision, and then doing some more thinking, and so on. And with this iterative process, it turns out that an agentic workflow can take longer, but it delivers a much better work product. So an agentic AI workflow is a process where an LM-based app executes multiple steps to complete a task. In this example, you might use an LM to write the first essay outline, and then you might use an LM to decide what search terms to type into a web search engine, or really what search terms to call a web search API with in order to get back relevant web pages. Based on that, you can feed the downloaded web pages into an LM to have it write the first draft, and then maybe use another LM to reflect and decide what needs more revision. And then depending on how you design this workflow, perhaps you may even add a human in the loop step where the LM has the option to request human review, maybe of some key facts. And based on that, it may then revise the draft. And this process results in a much better work output. One of the key skills you learn in this course is how to take a complex task, like writing an essay, and breaking it down into smaller steps for agentic workflow to execute one step at a time to then get the work output that you want. And knowing how to decompose the task into steps and how to build the components to execute the individual steps well turns out to be a tricky but important skill that will determine your ability to build agentic workflows for a huge range of exciting applications. In this course, a run example that we'll use and something that you build alongside me is a research agent. So here's an example of what it will look like. You can enter a research topic like, how do I build a new rocket company to compete with SpaceX? I don't personally want to compete with SpaceX, but if you want to, you can try asking a research agent to help you with background research. So this agent starts with planning out what research to use, including calling a web search engine to download some web pages, and then to synthesize and rank findings, draft an outline, have an editor agent review for coherence, and then finally generate a comprehensive markdown report, which it has done here, building a new rocket company to compete with SpaceX with an intro, background, findings, and so on. And I think it points out appropriately that this is going to be a tough startup to build. So I'm not personally planning to do this, but if you want to tackle something like this, maybe a research agent like this could help you with some initial research. And by finding and downloading multiple sources and deeply thinking about it, this actually ends up with a much more thoughtful report than just prompting an LM to write an essay for you would. One of the reasons I'm excited about this is because in my work, I've ended up building quite a few specialized research agents, be it in legal documents for complex legal compliance or for some healthcare sectors or some business product research areas. And so I hope that working through this example, you not only learn how to build agentic workflows for many other applications, but that some of the ideas in building research agents will be directly useful to you if you ever need to build a custom research agent yourself. Now, one of the often discussed areas of AI agents is how autonomous are they? What you just saw here was a relatively complex, highly autonomous agentic AI workflow, but there are also other simpler workflows that are incredibly valuable. Let's go on to the next video to talk about the degree to which agentic workflows can be autonomous, and does it give you a framework to think about how you might go about building different applications and how easy or difficult they might be. See you in the next video.